What up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of Sports and BS with your boys, Jamal Murphy and my man, Dan Weinrich. What's the deal, Dan?
What's up?
You good?
Oh, yeah. I mean, as good as one could be in 2020.
I hear that. So we're going to get into, our normal sports and BS, which lately has been sports and hip-hop, sports and versus suggestions, versus preview. We got a versus coming up tomorrow, right?
We do, but before we get into that, do you want to put a cap on because you did a little Twitter poll. We sort of the conversation that was started in this podcast took on a life of its own on Twitter.
Right.
As far as whether Nas was a worthy opponent of Jay-Z in a versus battle. Yeah,
I mean, the poll said yes, but by a slim margin, like 51% or something like that, say yes, which I still feel is disrespectful to Nas. I think, to me, it's a no-brainer that it's competitive. Now, do I think Nas would win? Probably not, but saying it's not competitive to me is I can't even humor the debate.
I think it's interesting that I did notice that Nas won by a slight margin. He should, because
we're just talking about competitive. That's it.
You should say that it would at least be. I voted no, but obviously Nas is good enough. I mean, I was about to say this about Rick Ross.
Is Nas still in your top 5 ever or no?
No, maybe it's pretty tough. I mean, Jay and Big, I guess maybe like Nas, Rakim, I don't know, Drake, Eminem, Tupac. I
actually was forced to. I had to think about this last night because there's a T-shirt I bought and I had to put my top 5 on it, and so I had Biggie, Jay-Z, Nas, and I filled it out with Rakim. And I said KRS. What the hell?
That's good. I like that. But a few months back, I remember you posted a poll about what the golden era of hip hop was, and I was very surprised you started later than what I mean, to me, golden era starts like 87 because there's so much great stuff came out at the end of the 80s.
It's interesting because when I'm thinking about it, I fell in love with hip hop in the 80s. So I'm not dissing anything before that, but I'm trying to come to what the period was when like the whole game just got better. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I started at 90 only because I was trying to be like, find a nice round number to start at. So I said 90, and then I originally went to 05, which now I do agree is late because maybe I should cut it at 2000. But, I wanted to fit in a few things before 2005, such as 50 Cent's album, his classic album. There was some Dipset stuff that I felt like deserved to be in there. But, I'll give it to you. It probably shouldn't go past 2000.
I mean,
and Pun, I think, had some stuff after 2000.
Did he?
I think like
2001.
Like the second album came out like 01, 2000.
The second album came out in the summer of 2000.
Right.
I remember distinctly it being the bang of the summer. But I think he didn't he die that
Probably.
Year or the year?
Yeah, but I'm just saying, like if I cut it off at 2000.
Okay. I mean, look, of course if the idea is, I can't, wherever I cut it off, I'm disregarding the value of hip hop is the most popular form of music. It's the modern rock and roll. Young people, if there's any young people listening, they wouldn't understand because when we grew up, hip hop was a fringe form of music when we started listening to it. Like granted, a lot of kids were into it, so it wasn't that like when we were in high school, everybody that we hung out with listened to hip hop, but not everybody everywhere listened to hip hop. The top 10 Billboard songs, there was no hip hop, no at all. And so, of course, there's going to be good stuff later on. But to me, the golden era, and what I mean by golden era is, see, I think that after a certain point, it became so popular that you could no longer trust the cream to rise to the top, that it was such a moneymaker that suddenly there was a lot more label involvement pushing forward acts that maybe weren't as good. It didn't organically, get that sort of notoriety. When we were kids in high school, the top 10 on Hot 97 at night were all, or the top 10 on Rap City or whatever. Every song was good. Always. Like, no question. There were no bad songs. Maybe, you might not like one song here or there, but it was like 100% quality guaranteed. Then once you get to like around 2000 and hip hop starts taking over, you start to have a lot more artists being put forward that maybe aren't as good. There's more hip hop overall, but you can't count on all of what you're hearing to be good, I guess is what I'm getting at. And to me, you got to start like around 87 with all that KRS, Big Daddy Kane, Public Enemy, Slick Rick. That's when hip hop went from a like sort of raw, kind of, you can go back and listen to stuff before that. It's sort of fun and kitschy, but it does that's where you started listening to hip hop. Like it was just your music. And I still listen to those classic albums in the rotation with the stuff from the 90s and the stuff that the few current things I listen to. But to me, golden era is like 87, and then it cuts off probably like around 95, 96. Now, that's not saying that nothing that came later was great. Big Pun might be in my top 5, but I'm just saying if I had to take a chunk of time where it was like classic, like the hip-hop's classic golden era when it was all pure and everything was great, that's that 10-year period.
Yeah, and I'm looking at it more like when hip hop, like when it became more sophisticated, like even like rhyme patterns, like even when I was listening to Special Ed in 88, 89 with like I Got It Made, and then even his second album with like Magnificent was like different. You know what I'm saying? It was like one seemed more old school. That's why. So for me, old school is still the 80s. There was great stuff, but the genre as a whole still felt old until the 90s when people started, and like, except, there are outliers, but I think the game as a whole became, just more, even to this day, it sounds more just modern. There's like to me, like late 80s to 90s, there's a clear sound difference.
Yeah, but I hear you, but I still maintain that, but you can't find any music from that era that isn't good. It's all the hip hop that you can find that was made
from the late 80s,
from about 88, from 88 through 95, 96. Everything you find, you can't find anything that isn't good, that doesn't have quality. Once you get to the late 90s, early aughts, then you start having, like hip hop goes multi-regional, becomes more pop focused. You have bands like Yin Yang Twins, like, I'm not saying I don't like those songs too. I'm just saying it's like, Master P, who I like a couple of his classics too.
Well, that's 90s.
Late 90s.
Mid to late.
I mean,
yeah. Later half of the 90s.
Yeah, I mean, and that's what I'm saying. I feel like to me, I would cut it off at like 96 with like, around like the Noriega album.
Right, which to me is definitely within, like that Nori album was a classic and it's within the golden age.
So I hear what you're saying. Yes, hip hop did advance, and not just the rap. I'd say even more than the rhyming, the production advanced. But I still prefer the earlier time because I think more of it, a greater percentage of it is good, if not as great as hip hop could eventually be, among some of the best.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's fair. And like I said, I'm not trying to diss the '80s because that's when I fell in
I
love
mean,
with it.
that's what surprised me is I feel I know obviously I know I remember being in your apartment or your parents' house and playing records of like LL Cool J
Oh
and
yeah, I mean that's what
Paris
that's.
and Big Daddy Kane, which is why it's
I mean, even
surprising.
Ice Cube, NWA, all that stuff. But
I
that,
mean,
but that to me, but it still has an old school sound. When you know what I mean. And
yeah,
for
but
me,
you know
and the
what?
whole reason I came up with it is because I was just trying to create a playlist, different playlists in my phone. So I have Golden Age, whatever. But then I have old
Why?
school Big Daddy Kane.
Okay, so you call that something different, and that's fine. You don't need to rename your playlist. But what I'm saying is, when you really think about what the actual golden age is, I mean, it's like I mentioned to you when you posted it. You know, like you don't. There's no better rock and roll than the Beatles and the Rolling Stones, even though that's 60, 70 years old, or like Nirvana from the '90s. Like nothing now, even though music has progressed. There's nothing better than that. And like then of course like Mozart is obviously hundreds of years old, and there's nothing like that kind of music. So I don't think that hip hop, just because it continued to grow and be popular, it has to necessarily what's old has to necessarily be less good.
Yeah, yeah. But when you think of Golden Age, right?
I mean,
Usually you're thinking of like the best product as a whole, like all together. Like were there like more great artists in this time period? You know what I mean?
yeah, well, it's like I was saying. I think there were more. I think there are probably more. There's more good music. There's more good songs later, good music, good artists later, but there's a higher percentage earlier, is what I'm saying. That as it grew in popularity, so did the artificial monetary interference into as far as what became successful, what you were exposed to. When hip hop was young, labels didn't care as much. So the DJs just spun what they spun, and what was good rose to the top. It was more organic. And
so you would put Run DMC in the Golden Age, or like Houdini?
They're actually a little before it, really.
Okay.
I mean, the tail end of their stuff would fall in there, like Down with the King. But their classics, I think, came out in like 85, 86.
Right. Like even like LL was weird because his, that was like my first favorite rapper probably was LL.
Yeah.
That's like 85, 86. And then at night, I think Mama Said Knock You Out was probably 89, 90, something like
80,
that.
Or 88 or 89. 89.
So you kind of miss out on LL a little bit, which bothered me. But I mean,
no, you don't miss out. You just miss out. You might miss out on radio, but you get, I think, Bigger and Deffer is 88. And Mama Said Knock You Out is 89. I mean, yeah, his first album is great.
Think about like LL, I'm Bad, which was great, but it sounds crazy compared to the 90s stuff, which is like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm bad.
Radio came out in 85, but Bigger and Deffer came out in 87. Yes, I agree with you. That's from but then by like Mama Said Knock You Out or Walking with a Panther, so it went like this. Radio was 85, Bigger and Deffer was 87, Walking with a Panther was 89, and Mama Said Knock You Out was 90. Walking with a Panther had like what was that one? Big Old Butt.
That was a classic.
Jingling Baby. Like, you can play that right now.
Oh, yeah. But that's like 90, I think. What year was that?
89.
89?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's what I just think. But look, when you ride in your car and you're listening to Sirius, you go to Eminem station, right?
I don't have Sirius anymore.
Well, I do.
A while.
That's what you used to listen to, though, right?
Yeah.
I listen to there's now a station called LL Cool J Rock the Boat.
Yeah, that's LL's. But even before that, it was still an old school station. I forget.
Yeah, well, now they have more now. I listen to that, and then there's another one called Fly, which is like hip hop and R&B hits from the like late '90s, early aughts. They'll play like stuff from 106 and Park. For those who don't know, I used to produce that show. believe it or not.
Back in the day.
I can prove it. You want to see it?
Yeah, sure.
The wife hides this in a cupboard. I'm like, honey, she's dead. She's been dead for 20 years. It's me and Aaliyah.
Classic pic.
She hides it. She's like, I don't care. I don't need to see you with some glamorous woman in a frame. I'm like, okay. But anyway.
Did you see or hear the Snoop take on Eminem that was on the Breakfast Club?
No.
So basically he was talking about Dre. I think the whole point was talking about how great Dr. Dre was.
Right.
And you know, all that Dr. Dre did for him and what he did for the culture. And he said, and then he said, you know, look at Eminem. He was like, you know, some people consider him top 10. He was like, I don't, but some people consider him top 10, but that's all because of Dre. Like Dre made him, allowed him to be the best Eminem and da-da-da-da. So he got a lot of course that went viral. He never like apologized or took it back. He was like, you know, y'all don't even know my top 10. He was like, I'm saying he's not top 10. Yeah, he's not top 10 because he wants to, because I respect the old heads, like in LL, for instance. That's why I thought about it, and a few others. KRS, I think he has in there. So
he has like all old school dudes.
Yeah, he put all, but
he has both members of Run DMC.
Right, but I think that was like when he first made the comment, he mentioned LL and Slick Rick.
Yeah, because he's even a few years older than us.
I think he came out with the list just to push back on all the people who were coming at him for saying the Eminem. So then it became like everyone on the list was old school, you know. So I'm not sure if that's legit coming from, you know what I mean. I think he kind of put that out there, like, so I'm not dissing Eminem. All my 10 is old school.
All right, I'll tell you what my 5 is. I would say it's probably Biggie, Jay-Z, Nas, Rakim, Tupac.
You like Tupac like that? You were a fan of his music like that?
I mean, he's got 10, 15 songs that I love. I'm probably not the biggest Tupac fan, but I have to acknowledge.
Well, but I'm asking you your top 5, though.
No,
okay.
It's not my favorite. That's me saying the greatest.
Okay, that's fair.
That's me saying the 5
Yeah,
greatest.
if I had to acknowledge the 5 greatest.
And Eminem, and 6 through 10 would be Eminem, LL Cool J, probably Big Daddy Kane, Drake, Weezy, KRS, Big Pun, that range, you know, those kind of guys.
Yeah, and Drake. I remember I did a.
Drake is up there, man.
A few years ago, I did like a bracket where I had all these guys seated. A March Madness bracket with the best MCs ever, and I think I had Tupac like either the last 1 or 2 seed, you know what I mean? But I was looking back at it, and I had this is 2015, I think, and I had Drake as a 6 seed. He's definitely moved up since then.
I mean, Tupac, just the fact that you could put him in a versus. I think when we discussed last week, you suggested that he would go against Biggie, right? You'd have to.
That'd be fair.
I mean, Biggie's the greatest of all time. So the fact that you could even consider that, I think we're just used to Tupac. But when you think about like, how do you want it? I get around.
No, he has a lot of. He has there's at least 15 to 20 songs in my Golden Age playlist from Tupac. At least 15 songs.
What's the Keep Your Head Up? Like that. Keep Your Head Up is like. I'll never turn that off if I'm flipping around and that's on the radio. To this day.
Yeah, Dear Mama.
Dear Mama. Out the America's Most Wanted. And the stuff with Digital Underground. I mean, actually.
I Get Around.
Yeah. I Get Around. How do you want it? You could throw that on any time. That's. Those are songs that came out 25 years ago that I've never stopped. They've never left. Like if there was a top 100 of the songs that I'm listening to, They've been on the Hot 100 for 25 years. Like, going from like CD mixes to ripping stuff off the internet to your Spotify playlist. Like, I Get Around has always been on my playlist since I was 17 years old.
Yeah, that was great. I found the seeds. So my one seeds were Biggie, Jay-Z, Nas, and Rakim. Of course, I'm East Coast biased. My two seeds, Tupac, KRS, Eminem, Big Daddy Kane. 3 seed, Pun, Cool G Rap, Andre 3000, Slick Rick. And then I had, I could keep going, but that's enough.
Wait, was Wheezy in there?
He was a 6 seed.
That's a little low.
I had him below Snoop.
I think Snoop and Wheezy are 3 seeds or higher.
I had my 4 seed Ice Cube. I put Redman high.
Guys who are great, but they would not. I wouldn't have put. I'm not trying to get an argument that they're not great, but I wouldn't. I'd probably have like G-Rap, Slick Rick, more like 4 seeds, 3-4 seeds.
Yeah, I have Jadakiss way too high here.
Wheezy needs to be on there. Drake, Kendrick Lamar, I think has earned a place at this point.
Yeah. He's come a long way in the last 5 years.
Don't forget Ice Cube. Nah, you want to talk about
Ice Cube? Ice Cube is a 4 seed for me.
That's I see that. That makes him 16.
What about Scarface?
Scarface definitely hugely underrated. All right, what other topics we got? We're just sort of meandering a little bit.
What's up in the sports world?
Oh, well, it's funny because you posted the thing about Giannis being underrated.
Right. That was the whole point.
Heading into his MVP.
Right.
And my initial intention was to troll you and be funny. And I said, yeah, but Harden should have won the MVP last year and this year too. And you laughed at me, and I posted that screen grab that has become a meme where on a game a week ago or a week and a half ago, they listed all these offensive categories that he's first in.
Right. Including
they're a little redundant. It's
including like attempts and stuff.
It's like field goal attempts, field goals made. But it's still impressive that he's first in like 13, 14 categories, something crazy like that. But in any case, I posted that and you're like, yeah, okay, he's a great scorer. So then I went to go look up his stuff. I started looking up his advanced metrics. And I actually surprised myself that I'm like, Jesus, he's second in the league in steals. I mean, the big thing hanging over James Harden all the time is people say he doesn't play defense. And you see all these highlights of him classically like letting people
that stuff is overblown. But
I mean, you can't end up number 2 in the league in steals. You just can't have that
and be terrible
and be a bad. Or, no, you're very good at least very good to be number 2 in the league.
Well, it doesn't mean you're a very good defender, but you could. It means you're not terrible though.
On the defensive end are monumental. If you're number 2 in the league in steals, that's a big. You're getting possessions. You're adding possessions per game more than anybody.
But I mean, defense is hard to calculate, right? Because
of course,
what about the times he goes for the steal and misses? He could do that more.
But then I go see these advanced metrics, and I see value added. He's number 1.
Last year, you mean? Not this year.
No, this year.
Not in PER. Which one?
In PER, he's number 2 after Giannis. Okay. But in value added and in projected wins, he's number 1, and Giannis is 2. Harden actually the person who's being monumentally underrated right now because I think he is. I think for some reason there's this sentiment.
Well, there is a sentiment.
To score. Well, but I think he's so much more than. I think he's a truly like dynamic. I mean, this guy's going to be in the Hall of Fame. The numbers he's putting up.
Well, yeah, he'll be in the Hall of Fame, and he's 30. So part of the reason he gets underrated, if that's true, is because he's had more opportunities in the playoffs and hasn't really produced. So people hold that against him, including me, in terms of his true greatness. regular season, he's one of the best ever. There's no question about that. Well, but I'm not going to give you that he could. Last year it was actually very, very, very close last year between him and Giannis and who should win it just by the numbers. But Giannis had the better regular season record by far, so it was fair because they were so close. And then this year it's not as close because Giannis has gotten his numbers even better this year. And then on top of that, the team was even better this year. Like, they were like an 80% winning clip in the regular season.
We've had this argument before. But, I think that. Sorry, you go ahead.
No, go ahead because I was going to take it to somewhere else.
I think that you're undervaluing the separation in James Harden's scoring and his points per game from the rest of the league.
So what about the rebounds for Giannis? Because Giannis, for instance, Giannis is averaging 14 to Harden's like 6 or 7.
No, I'm not saying.
And Harden's averaging 34 compared to Giannis's 30.
Yeah, but my point isn't compared to each other. Obviously, Giannis is going to get more rebounds than Harden. My point is compared to the rest of the league. Like the difference between Harden is like running away with the scoring title for 2 years in a row. It's rare. Usually they're separate. Everybody after him, they're separated by decimal points. But he is like 5-6 points higher. This year only 4 or 5. But that's a big difference from the field. This is some Tiger Woods shit when you're talking about James Harden scoring in the NBA over the last 2-3 years. And that's what I'm talking about. It's like Harden versus the field. Now, the other thing I think worth considering is, Giannis, of course, he's amazing. But, like, when you're really talking about, like, the greater basketball player, like, I've always favored Jordan over LeBron, even though, like, LeBron might be more impactful on a court because of all of his physical gifts.
Right.
Not just gifts, but also the incredible physical shape he put himself into. But, like, Giannis is freaking 7 feet tall and has, like, a 7'5" wingspan. James Harden is, like, just a regular dude. He's just a regular dude. He's not that fast. But yet, and everyone knows what he's going to do. But yet, like, Giannis, it's like, just look at him. How could you expect?
But he's 7 foot and he can do a lot of things that 7-footers didn't used to do.
I know, but I'm saying it's like, oh my God, he's a 7-footer. Look at him move. He's unguardable. Harden, you look at him and you're like, oh, that just looks like a guy at the gym. I can guard him, but yet nobody.
He's a sick athlete.
So my point is, like, maybe the greater athlete is the guy who does more with less, and he certainly has done more with less. If you put Harden's exact skills in Giannis's body, you'd have the greatest NBA player of all time ever.
Well, same if you gave Harden Giannis's size. It goes both ways. Like if Harden could do if Harden.
My point is I rate Harden's skill higher because he's doing it with a human body. Giannis is amazing, but he's doing it with a superhuman body.
Okay,
Harden is a dude. Is he 4?
Yeah, 6'5", 6'4", something like that. He, my point in the post and saying that Giannis was underrated. I was talking because I was talking to Malik about it. Our mutual friend played Notre Dame, and I was like, we were talking about Giannis. I was like, and
South Carolina.
I was like, he's really underrated because when you think about what he's doing, like no one ever compares him to LeBron or like a young LeBron. That was my point. Yeah. But when you go back and look at what he's doing in the numbers, and I get why people don't compare him to LeBron because Giannis is like, he didn't have the hype coming out of high school. He's kind of like new to us.
Well, he wasn't as good. LeBron was an all-star when he was.
That's fine. But by the time, but when you look at their careers, both of them, like LeBron won his first MVP at age 24. Giannis was 24 last year. LeBron then won his second in a row the next year when he was 25, same as Giannis is about to do. And when you compare their numbers, it's like you can't say who's better just from the numbers. You know what I'm saying?
Hasn't had a whiff of a finals. I mean,
either had. Well, LeBron got to the finals and got swept that 1 year. You know what I'm saying? But LeBron didn't win a finals till like 3-4 years later when he went to Miami. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, well, look, I can't give Giannis credit for something that he hasn't done either. And
well, but at the time I'm sure we were giving LeBron his credit back then when he won his first MVP. We probably were saying at the time, like, this guy could be the all-time greatest.
Giannis hasn't even been in a conference final. So, I mean, I feel like he was already having playoff success that Giannis hasn't had yet.
No, I mean, no.
Giannis didn't play basketball his whole life. Took him a little longer to develop. Okay. I mean, I'm not trying to hold that against him, but that's why he's not LeBron. But, like,
LeBron played
Giannis
7.
Never shown up in the playoffs either.
LeBron played 7 years before going to Miami in 2010-11.
So he was 25.
No, he was a
rookie at 18.
He was 26 when he went to Miami. Right. So
that's what I said. 26.
He won his first MVP when he was 24. When he was 24 in 08-09, and then he won it again 09-10. Then he leaves. That's what I'm saying. So Giannis at 24, 25 is doing the same things. And nobody's saying, oh, Giannis could be the greatest ever. That's my point.
I mean, that would be an absurd thing to say.
Why? Look what he's doing. Well, imagine Giannis won like 3 or 4 MVPs in a row. Would you change it then?
Yes.
And so he's about to win 2. So if he's the next 2 years, if he's the best player in the league again, then it's okay. All I'm saying is
okay.
All I'm saying is just keep an open mind. That's all I'm saying.
Talking about it. So yes, is he on a trajectory? Well, I suppose, but it's at the very, very beginning of that trajectory.
Well, two MVPs at 24 and 25.
But like I was saying, I think in the moment, my point is I think the guy that's more underrated, underappreciated is actually Harden because he's living in Giannis's shadow, figuratively and literally. But in fact, the basketball that James Harden has played, really since he went to Houston. I mean, people were like, what the heck? This is not a franchise guy when Houston got him from Oklahoma City, if you remember, right?
Right.
And he was a sixth man for Oklahoma City when they went to the finals and lost to the Heat, to LeBron. But really, since he went to Houston, I mean, he has been more than a franchise player. He's been, a top 5 guy, top 5, top 3 guy. And I don't think that he gets his due. I mean, you see, I posted on going back to the original discussion, I posted your comment about Giannis. Oh, Harden should have won the MVP last year. And you and another guy just laughed like it was a joke.
Well, I'm thinking this year is laughable.
But he's number 1 in value added and he's number 2 in PER. So it shouldn't be you shouldn't laugh at. I mean, Russell Westbrook, you can laugh at that, but he's number 2 in PER. Why would you laugh? But I'm not trying to attack you. I'm just saying I feel like this is indicative of how James Harden is maligned and does not get the credit that he deserves.
Well, he's a definitely first team All NBA player. There's no question about that. So he's top 5. It's just more based on his team's performance this year. Why he's not really talked about his MVP.
But if he's number 1 in value added and number 1 in projected value and number 2 in PER, why would he be anything other than the number 1 or number 2? Forget top 5. Why would he be anything lower than top 2?
Because of team performance. So you got LeBron has jumped ahead of him because of what he's done with the Lakers, and also has great stats too. He's probably top 5 in those categories too.
Yeah, but James Harden is top 2 in those categories. Are there more important categories?
Well, I'm seeing win share per 48. Giannis is ahead of him. I'm showing.
Yeah. Giannis is ahead of him in PER too.
PER also, yeah.
And he's number 1 in value added and projected games.
And also
and by the way, look at the projected wins numbers. He's ahead of Giannis by 3 games. It's another one of those really surprising gaps. I'm just saying, like I said, I love Harden. I've enjoyed watching his. I've had an old man game my whole life too. I love watching that old man game. But I surprised myself when I went and dug into the. I'm like, oh my God, he actually should be really be in this conversation, because I said it a little tongue in cheek. I didn't 100% mean it. At least I didn't I was surprised at at what I found about his performance this year. But what my point ultimately is, okay, if you might prefer Giannis, but you can't. I mean, the numbers don't back up any argument of anyone other than him or Harden.
Well, LeBron is the one who's going to get votes.
The numbers don't back that up, because
I would agree with that. I mean, look at just between Giannis and Harden.
And by the way,
and this is raw averages. Harden averaging 34.4, Giannis 29.9. Harden averaging seven assists, Giannis 6 assists, and Giannis 14 rebounds to Harden's 6. And percentage-wise, he's a better percentage shooter than Harden across the board, except for free throws and threes.
So, I mean, and then here's the funniest thing about this whole conversation. Meanwhile, ask me who the best player in the NBA is.
Who?
Kawhi Leonard.
Well, he might be the best playoff player. You know what I mean? Like, he doesn't play enough games.
We're going to scrimmage right now. The whole NBA is there. You and me shoot for it, I win. I get the first pick. I got Kawhi.
I don't know. I love Kawhi, but
I mean, he's the best defender.
It's just he has that serious knee problem. He's always limping.
He doesn't. It's weird because he's not of the Jordan cast, that Jordan, Kobe, Kyrie, Dame Lillard, like make it look pretty, almost balletic way of elevating and shooting. It just looks, it's so workmanlike. It just doesn't look slick and pretty, but he is so dominant on both sides of the court. He just dominates the game. And he's done it since he came to the NBA with Hall of Famers on his team. And he went to the NBA Finals in the biggest stage ever and won the damn MVP with Tony Parker and Tim Duncan and Manu Ginobili all on that team. And he won the MVP when he was 19 years old. I think 19 years old.
Right. But he's probably only, he's probably only dominated on a good team, like dominated for a good team once last year. He may have been the best player on the Spurs, but he by far didn't have to carry it, and he didn't have to carry them.
I think he's the best player in the NBA, but I don't think, but he hasn't played.
He doesn't play enough. He doesn't play enough to be considered for the MVP.
But there you go. There's our top 4. Can we agree that those are the top 4 players in the NBA?
Who, LeBron is in there?
James Harden, Giannis, LeBron, and Kawhi.
That's fair. It'd be hard to argue.
I wonder who 5 is, though.
Durant when healthy?
Well, obviously, but...
Is it obvious?
What about Curry?
Yeah.
Anthony Davis?
Right.
How about Luka? How about Jokic?
Well, I love
watching Jokic.
I argued with Malik about Jokic last night, and when I looked at the stats, the Embiid stats, I kind of felt silly last year.
Oh, why? Because you were arguing for Embiid?
No, I was arguing for Jokic.
Oh, Jokic doesn't have better numbers than Embiid?
Not last year. He does a little bit this year.
I mean, I'll definitely take Jokic over Embiid. Embiid's got, great. It's fun to watch. He definitely has guard moves for this giant frame. It's reminiscent of, like Malone or Barkley. But his footwork seems even better than those guys. But he's just not there in a consistent way. The way someone like Jokic, I feel like you would love being on a team with that guy. He's just such a rock.
I mean, he's a 20 and 10 guy.
But it's about the consistency
and
of
a 7 assist guy. It's the assists.
It's about the intelligence and consistency of his play.
Right, but if they were playing against each other, I might take Embiid. You know what I mean? To have the better game.
I mean, it's funny because you're just making we're arguing, and I'm James Harden, and you're arguing against the guy who scores more. And with Embiid and Jokic, I think that's the only edge that Embiid has over Jokic is that he scores a little
and rebounding. Yeah, by a lot. He got him by a lot last year.
He's a freaking giant.
But Jokic averages more assists than a lot of point guards. So that's a whole different.
Yeah. He's really fun to watch. It's crazy how guys like Luka and Jokic, these European players, are the gold standard of I would say a basketball, a true a player's player. Like an old school, traditional, understand the game, court vision, play to win, make your teammates better. These guys are just great. They're really great to watch.
Yeah, Luka's right there. He's on the cusp. He's definitely a top 10 guy.
I mean, how old is he?
21.
You know who else is? I saw a clip of Ja and Zion. And it was something about rookies, and I'm like, wait a minute, those dudes are still rookies?
Well,
I felt like they're not rookies anymore.
Well, technically. And that's the interesting thing about this bubble is that these guys, basically it's their second year. So a lot of these young guys are looking a lot more confident right now than you would think, And also I think the no fans plays a role in that.
Look out for John Morant. You know who John Morant reminds me of? He reminds me of Penny.
Yeah, with not being 6'7", though,
Yeah, but boy, does he fly through the air. Maybe he's more like Iverson, come to think of it. With that
No, I like Morant a lot, but he's
exceptional.
But I'm still. I still have to see a little more.
How about this question? Is Dame Lillard actually the most underrated player in the NBA? I mean, what does this guy got to do?
I mean, he's probably top 10 now.
I mean, he's definitely top 10.
He's better. You like him more? You like him more than Curry?
Curry is the greatest shooter ever, and but I think right now, Damian. If we remember, we used to do.
Well, we haven't seen Steph in a while.
All right, so
that plays into it.
So if I'm doing my first team NBA, he's the point guard.
Yeah, for this past year.
Right now.
Steph didn't play.
But that in this moment, Dame is the point.
Fine.
Right? Harden is the 2.
Is Dame the point? Is he the best point guard in the league? I guess so, yeah.
I mean, who else? Kemba?
LeBron James plays point.
Well,
he does.
Point forward.
I think it. Do you think Dame is first team all league?
Yes, he's the best point guard right now. Harden is the 2. The 3 is LeBron a 3 or a 4?
Wherever you want to put him.
I guess LeBron.
So where is Kawhi?
LeBron, Kawhi, they're forwards, and Giannis is the center. So the answer to the earlier question is it's actually Dame Lillard who's number 5. What do you think of that?
I'm not.
He deserves it.
I'll give you top 10. I don't know about top 5.
I mean, how many game-winning shots this guy have to have?
I mean, he's not. Luka has a lot of game winners. He's not the only guy who hits game-winning shots.
Come on. No. I think his shot over to put the first of all, he has 2 all-time classic playoff game winner shots. 2 of them.
Right.
But the one from last year, to me, maybe the greatest. I mean, I remember arguing with you about it. I said it was better than Kawhi's shot, which was also amazing. Those 2 might be up there, top 5 greatest shots I've ever seen in my life. And, we're old enough to have seen Jordan's shot over Elo and Brian Russell. But that shot that Damian Lillard took to win the series from how many feet out? 50 feet out? It was in
Well, can he get his team into the playoffs? How about that? I mean, there's really no excuse. I know he had injuries this year.
Yeah, wasn't he hurt? And
a little bit, but there's really no excuse for a top top five guy not to be in the playoffs.
West, man, West is always, Right. Anyway, what else we got? What are the topics?
Major League Baseball. You want to talk about their situation?
So, I mean, I told you. I mean,
but it's not. But we're both right, because my point was it doesn't matter. They're not going to stop.
Well, a few more dominoes do need to fall, but it's
how many more? There's like 3-4 teams that have like half the team infected.
Right. So,
what are we doing here?
Well, eventually there won't. They need two teams to play each other. So eventually,
right,
enough of them get eliminated, and there can't be any more games.
What did you think about the Cespedes thing with the Mets? How he supposedly just didn't show up? Do you buy that? Because I just feel like I don't feel like you can trust the Mets with the story. Like to me, that maybe are they just trying to make him look bad because they're mad that he doesn't want to play?
Did they come out with did they say anything?
I don't think so. That's a good point. But I mean, the story was, first they're putting out stuff, statements that they can't find him.
I mean, let's remember this guy has done dumb shit his whole career. How did he injure himself? Riding a donkey or something? Fighting a porcupine? It was
something crazy. I can't remember. Something about a chicken coop.
I mean, forget it. And didn't he hurt himself playing golf during a playoff series?
Maybe. That's a good point.
Yeah. So I'm sorry, but
so basically Cespedes was like he was watching SportsCenter and he was like, oh hell no, I ain't playing. Forget it.
I don't blame him for that, but I don't.
You gotta tell him. You gotta email somebody.
I don't blame him for not wanting to play, but I don't necessarily doubt the Mets account.
Okay, that's fair. Are you watching Mets games? How about that?
A little bit, but it's like okay. If I knew for sure that they were going to be able to make it to a World Series and play it, then I probably would be more interested. But I honestly do not believe that that's possible. That's going to happen. So it's like I watch a little, but it's like it's almost like watching. It feels like I'm watching spring training because the stakes just don't feel that real to me. And same with the NBA.
Well, the NBA, I believe in. I think that they're probably going to get this done. I mean, dudes haven't had a case in 3 weeks or something like that. So it looks like it's working. My whole point is it doesn't mean it's moral. You know what I mean? It's still kind of like an immoral feeling about it. Like, oh, wow, I'm entertained, but that bubble they have is what we all need. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, well, look, I still think that basketball, the difference between basketball and baseball is that the spread would be so much easier and quicker among basketball players because of the nature of the contact of the game, right? Like baseball players are just not rubbing basketball players are literally bumping and rubbing their bodies up against each other.
But it's not about the playing field for any of this stuff. It's really about everything else.
No,
it's
but
about, the locker room. In game is the last of your worries.
My point being that NBA will not be able to stitch it up as quick as MLB can, because if one guy gets it and is not detected and starts to spread it, all the other guys will have it like that before they even know the first guy got it.
Well, so but they actually have a plan in place, so they're better. They're testing every single day.
Yeah, and you see the games, you see the guys coming over with the water. They got the gloves and the mask. It looks so much more professional than baseball
because it is. You know what I'm saying? Even Adam Silver will tell you there's nothing foolproof. He's not sure they're going to make it either. He's hoping that this works, but at least it's a real thought out plan that has a chance to work, unlike baseball or football, which we'll see. If you think baseball's been bad, imagine what the NFL is going to try to pull off. Odell Beckham Jr. already is on the record saying he doesn't think they should play this season. He doesn't think the NFL cares about him. No shit, Odell. Obviously. So, when football starts trying to they've already started training camp. by the way, football. So wait for that disaster.
I promise you between that, go ahead, mark this time code, clip this out, and date it, okay? Because I promise you within 2 weeks, there will be numerous NFL team outbreaks, and they're gonna
what they're gonna what? Don't act like they're gonna do the right thing.
Won't make it. I predict NFL season might make it to week 2 or 3 maximum before they shut it down. Baseball's not going to make it to the end of August, and NBA's got the best chance. But my prediction is, I mean, the good thing is once they get to the playoffs, like teams start getting
there's less and less people in the bubble.
So they actually have a chance. I'd say it's 50-50, but something could definitely blow up in the next week or so. But those would be my predictions. NFL, week 2 or 3, Major League Baseball, Labor Day, and NBA is a toss-up.
And not just the NBA. All these bubbles have been successful so far with like no cases, including the WNBA has their bubble. They're doing fine. Major League Soccer did have some cases early on, but recently they haven't. So, and those are and the NHL. The NHL has a bubble in Canada. They're doing fine. So the key seems to be the bubble. And if you don't have a bubble, and I'm not saying, trust me, it's much harder for Major League Baseball to do, if not impossible. Same thing with the NFL. It's just too large of a league. So it may not be their fault that they can't do a bubble, but I don't know how they're going to get a season done.
This is what, time for my little doomsday rant. But there's 3 factors that really just scare me about what's to come in the next few months. Number 1, COVID is surging in most of the country. Number 2, we are now on the home stretch out of summer towards fall, a la entering flu season. Number 3, in all the places where COVID has been doing well, people have been relaxing so much that they've been really not adhering to the guidelines. So I think that all these 3 factors will combine that by September, October, COVID will be exploding all across the country. Is what I predict, although I, of course, hope I'm wrong. But
I don't know. Sounds like you're rooting for it, Dan.
Well, it's not helping our friend Mr. Trump. Of course, I'm not rooting for it. But when we know what we have to do to prevent it, and we're not doing it.
Right. No, I mean, as long as we have this president and these Republicans and this federal leadership, how could you be confident in anything as far as this country goes? Doing the right thing. Period. And that's why I was joking the whole time. Like, if the NBA is successful with this stuff, Adam Silver should be the goddamn president.
Oh, hell yeah.
So,
hey, I'd say Jay-Z for president.
I don't know about that. He doesn't like kneeling, so I don't know about Jay-Z.
We didn't
before we get out of here.
Well, we didn't preview the verses at all.
Oh yeah, fine. Let's preview it's a week verse tomorrow. Thursday. Today's Tuesday.
Oh right, Thursday night. Ricky Rose versus Two Chainz. I don't get it.
It sounds like you don't think it's a battle.
I don't think it's a battle at all.
Mm-hmm. I think that's pretty much the consensus.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, he's been on a few mean guest tracks, but Rick Ross has anthems, Every Day I'm Hustling is a saying.
Right.
When you have a rap song that becomes a saying, that's what Iconic is all about.
Typical Rick Ross, taking an easy matchup.
Maybach Music. What's that one? The Larry Hoover, Big Meech.
BMF.
EMF. What does that stand for?
Blowing money fast.
Hustling.
I don't think. And I'm not the biggest Rick Ross fan, but he should smack 2 Chainz around.
So hopefully, yeah.
So 20 songs. I'll give a prediction. Rick Ross will win 14-6.
I think he'll crush him. I think it'll be embarrassing for 2 Chainz. But maybe 2 Chainz is going to come with some great energy or something.
He might come with Mercy, like you said.
Oh, he definitely will play Mercy. 100%. I bet you he like might end with it, and he only has like 4 bars.
I like that NCAA joint he has, but I don't know. Depends what Rick Ross puts against it.
Rick Ross is gonna come with the heat. All right, what else did you want to talk about before we wrap up?
Did you see the kneeling in the NBA and the one guy, Jonathan Isaac, who stood up? Yeah. What was your thought on that?
I mean,
don't care?
No, of course I care. He's obviously like seriously misguided, maybe sick in the head.
No, religious. He's very religious.
Yeah, well, I mean, I call that a level of religiosity crazy in my book. And that goes for all religions, including my own. I don't like really religious people. I think religion is okay. I respect if faith helps guide you towards a moral existence and you appreciate tradition, great. But when you start when it becomes your single identity in life, that's when people, it seems like that's where wars happen. That's where hate comes from. It's hard to ignore all the association with fanatic religiosity and suffering. But in any case, so this idiot refuses to put on a Black Lives Matter shirt and refuses to kneel because he says he's obviously some sort of wacky Trump supporter because he says it's because of Jesus. Jesus is all that we need to help us get equality.
Well, he did say Black Lives Matter. Yes, Black Lives Matter, but
what if you feel that your religion precludes you from wearing that shirt in support? I feel like there's something else at play. But of course, in the ultimate irony, 2 days later, the guy blows out his knee.
Yeah, which is sad. I saw that. That wasn't good. That was ugly.
I mean, it is sort of sad, but it is
very
also
sad.
It's sort of something called instant karma. And this is a really pivotal time in our nation's history. And I know I'm just a white person and it's probably not my place to judge a person of color and their position, but I just feel like that he really, I think he probably disappointed a lot of people with what he said. And you can't help but think that there's some sort of higher universal thing at play, that the man refuses to stand and now he can't stand. Refuses to kneel, now he can't stand. I mean,
I guess, but the injury. I just hate. I hate injuries.
I've torn my ACL twice. It sucks. So
there you go. So you can talk.
I would never wish it on anybody, right. but I can't ignore the sort of universal. I mean, when I heard his comments, it felt to me like he was doing something bad. He was doing something wrong. What he was saying, he should not be saying. It felt counterproductive, to something so important right now, And so for that to happen to him so quick, and it almost like it was a non-contact injury, for him to just crumple on the floor like that, it's hard to ignore the sort of movie script element of the whole thing.
The good thing about this whole situation, I think, is a couple years ago when Kaepernick was kneeling and the NFL was kneeling, it was like that one person, it was like 1 or 2 people per team, and they were the people that stood out. Now, all of a sudden, it's the one person that's standing up that's the story. So it just shows you how things have changed, I guess, for the positive in the last few months.
That's true, but he could have stood if he had worn a shirt. A lot of dudes are standing, like Popovich is standing, but he wears the shirt.
Right.
It's a little bit like, you probably don't remember this, but there's a famous Seinfeld episode where they're doing this walk. I don't remember what it was, a charity walk, and they're all wearing a ribbon for whatever the cause was, and Kramer doesn't want to wear the ribbon, always the individual, and they're like, the people as they're walking have been like, "Hey, you're not wearing the ribbon." He's like, "Yeah, I don't wear the ribbon." They're like, "What do you mean you don't wear the ribbon?" He doesn't wear the ribbon, and they all sort of go crazy and attack him. And I can't help but think of that too. But at the same time, I do think that there's been such a lack of initiative. Like, I mean, I feel like, if I'm an NBA player, black or white, I'm looking back, I'm ashamed that it took till now for me to like get on board, and it took for everybody to do it. It's so safe to do it.
It's not even a protest anymore.
Right. So the fact, like, it's crucial to show your support, and if not, you should have a good reason, and he did it. So
right. I agree with that. All right, Joe, let's get out of here. Good stuff. We'll be back next week.
Long pod.
Yeah, time flies.
If you listen to this entire pod and Jamal did not tell you to do this, you can text me or email me right now, and I will Venmo you $10.
Whoa. Okay.
$10 if you listen to this whole pod without
get your Cash App ready. Get your Cash App. But that does remind me, check out the podcast, Sports and BS on iTunes, Spotify, all that good stuff. Leave us a rating. Let us know what you think. Give us 5 stars so we can get this on and popping on a regular basis. It's always fun. Always talk about the issues that need to be talked about. And what you got, Dan? Anything else?
Go donate money to Joe Biden and vote for Joe Biden.
You're voting for Sleepy Joe?
Yep.
I'm just joking. He's a
Joe Biden. Let me show you something before we touch. I need to post this. Joe Biden, my mom once, she used to be a big fan of his back in the in the day, like we would watch him on like C-SPAN and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
And when he was young and dapper.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a friend at St. Anne's, a school I went to before I met you, whose family whose family had friends who lived in Delaware and knew the Bidens. And they would come, the friends of the Bidens would come to Brooklyn Heights to visit the friends of the kids that I went to school with. And they loved the bagels. They would always take bagels from my mom's shop. So my mom found out, I told her about this. And so she sent like 24 bagels complimentary to send to the Bidens. And he sent back a photo, a signed photo, and a letter, like a 3-paragraph letter, thanking her for the generous gift, and the bagels were so delicious. And she has it framed in her apartment. I'm trying to find it. But
did he come by and rub her shoulders?
No.
Good for you, Joe.
But anyway, that dude, he's okay. He's an all right guy.
Yeah, a million times better than the guy that's in office. So that's all that matters.
God almighty.
Get out there and vote, people.
Where should they email us? Where should they email us questions? What topics they want us to talk about?
Hit us up on social media. Hit us up. What's your Twitter?
My Twitter is DWI Productions.
And what's your Instagram?
My Instagram is
it private?
Weinrich. That's DANWEINREICH. One word.
All right. And then hit me up on Twitter at Blackatologist. Same on Instagram. And like I said, leave a review and rate the podcast on iTunes, on Apple Podcast now. It's no longer Apple Podcast. Rate and review the show. And you could ask us a question in your review or give suggestions, all that good stuff.
All right, talk soon. Peace.
Later.
Later from Queens.